you could sell me on the narrative like, hey, if we're turning up the heat on K1, we want to get the best version of him. You're bringing in a 21-year-old, SEC phenom that lit up Georgia and all their first-round defenders. Like, I can get my arms around that.
We are in the thick of draft season, and it's the PHNX Cardinals Top 100 2025 NFL Draft Prospects. Bo Brack, Johnny Venerable. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports. Drop a like on this video. We're going to be breaking down prospects, Johnny, 100 to 51 of our big board. We got 5 intriguing prospects that I think you need to kind of just holster away before the Cardinals are on the clock for the next 3-day stretch at the end of April. And we're going to start with, how about down the board here? We'll go 88th overall, a prospect out of UCLA that came in for a top 30 visit, a versatile linebacker, switched edge during the season, Femi Oladejo out of UCLA.
Yeah, when you're looking for Arizona Cardinal checking the boxes, especially after the round of 1, you got to look at Senior Bowl. And this was a guy that participated, 20 reps on the bench. He is projected by most to be a late day 2, early day 3 guy. So, I mean, this is probably what you're talking about if you miss on a top tier edge rusher at 16th overall or even 47th, right? And you're starting to look at maybe a developmental kid where he's a 2-year starter for a couple different programs out west. He started at Cal, transferred to UCLA. But again, is somebody that does a nice job getting downhill. He's still developing, according to Fran Duffy and company, his hands as a pass rusher. But before moving to edge, full-time earlier in the season, they like to have him blitz the A-gap. So not somebody with a ton of like traditional pass rush moves. So while I think he's got a higher ceiling than somebody like Xavier Thomas, compared to like the guys that we talk about every day on the show, Mike Green and James Pierce Jr., this is very much a project entering 2025. And again, the Cardinals liked him. They brought him in for a top 30 visit.
Yeah, if we're talking about this guy in the first, 2 days of the draft, we're probably reaching, right? But these are one of the guys that we like with high upside because of the positional change. Think Jaylen Walker light. Jaylen Walker, of course, the top prospect coming out of Georgia, the versatility, played more snaps off ball than he did off the edge, but projects as an edge on the next level. And, he's a guy that Fran, very thorough breakdown of him, former Bruins player, where he said he just never got blown off the ball. It's very strong, right? He's not going to be a guy that's going to get absorbed by blockers out there, and good size, right? He's 6'3". He's almost 260 pounds with good arm length. That's, the big kind of buzz thing as far as these edge rushers, around just over 33 inches there. So no issues as far as his size, his strength, but can he be as bendy as you want him to be coming off the edge? That's where you kind of look at this guy down the draft ranks. Could he be somebody that the Cardinals tab that liked during the interview process that think they can develop?
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals have just three top 100 picks this year. It's a far cry, Bo, from what they have 7 in the top 90 last year. So I would think, as you mentioned, 78 feels like a reach. Yeah. I think 115 at the beginning of day 3, if you want to add to that group. I mean, listen, you lost Jesse Luketa, Victor Dumikaji, and Dennis Gardeck, right? And while we would prefer a first or second round edge rusher at minimum,
right?
It's not that you can't add to this group later on. This is a kid who, I mean, Victor Dumikaji, his numbers compared to this kid, very similar at the collegiate ranks, about 4.5, 5 sacks per year. So again, this is somebody though who I think his measurables at 6'3.5", almost 6'4", translate better. And there are guys in the middle rounds every year that come out of nowhere and produce. So maybe it's somebody, especially like academic power like UCLA, can come in and pick schematically up what Rollis and JG are bringing.
And look, if he's just kind of a replacement to the guy you mentioned, like a Luketa, Dumikaji, that's fine too. Like, you're not going to ask him at this point anymore with Josh Sweat, and hopefully a first or second rounder coming off the edge. That you got, him just as a nice little depth piece, developmental piece. So let's keep going down our board here as we started from the bottom. We started with a guy 88th overall on our board. Let's go 80. Jaylen Milroe, somebody, Johnny, that you really like. Obviously not flying on the radar, played quarterback at Alabama, but a bit of a polarizing prospect and down the draft board, or at least our big board, pretty far for the Cardinals.
Yeah, we don't know if the Cardinals have any interest. We're going to ask our guy Mike Garafolo when he joins the program later this week. Are the Cardinals doing a top 30 visit with any quarterback, right? Well, you've got Jordan Schultz out here, national reporter, friend of the program, crushing it this offseason, saying he spoke with an assistant GM about Jaylen Milroe. And basically the narrative right now is he's one of the most intriguing guys in the entire draft. There's a narrative that he's a running quarterback, but that's way off. I just feel like after what Jalen Hurts has done, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 championship, like I think Jalen Hurts is going to help Jaylen Milroe directly or indirectly. I think he's going to be helped by this quarterback class, sans Cam Ward, forced overall, being very hit or miss. So I think Jaylen Milroe eventually goes in the top 100. I have no issue. Again, it's not my preference. If the Cardinals wanted to use 78 on Jaylen Milroe and said, hey, we're going to add this to a quarterback room, we're going to raise the floor with Jacoby Brissett, Jaylen Milroe, and Kyler Murray, like I wouldn't have a problem with it. Again, it's not my first preference, but I don't think Jaylen Milroe should be starting anytime soon. But like you could sell me on the narrative like, hey, if we're turning up the heat on K1, we want to get the best version of him. You're bringing in a 21-year-old, SEC phenom that lit up Georgia and all their first-round defenders. Like, I can get my arms around that, especially after the Cardinals used a top 90 pick on a blocking tight end last year. Like, you're telling me they can't use 78 on a quarterback? Get real.
Look, I mean, I get why he's a polarizing guy, and I think he's going through mechanical issues. He's trying to improve his throwing motion, maybe kind of develop into a rhythm passer, but he's not nearly there. Yeah. I think 78, and I understand, you could use last year's, but they had so many, as we mentioned, so many top 100 selections. They just have 3 this year. I don't know if you can burn one of those on a developmental quarterback when I think you got a pretty decent QB room now with the addition of Jacoby Brissett. But if you're getting him down the line, if he slips, if Jordan Schultz is getting some funky intel here and he's not going to go as high as some people believe, then sure, you can get me into it with Jaylen Milroe. But look, sub 4.4, just great athlete. Somebody like if you can get him in your building and not have to reach for him, yeah, I'm not going to have a big issue with that. Let's continue to get up the board here. How about somebody that has been in the Cardinals facility for a top 30 visit? Let's go to the ACC. Let's go to North Carolina State tackle Anthony Belton. Johnny, he's a guy that came in for a top 30 visit and is a big boy, 6'6", 336 pounds, 33, almost 34-inch arms. He's got what you want as far as the size, but it's kind of trying to figure out where he fits at the NFL level. Is he inside? Is he outside?
Yeah, these are 2 phrases that scare me a little bit historically. ACC, and then you say NC State, the alma mater of ex-GM Steve Keim. But I'm going to let this one slide because the Cardinals done a hell of a job both in free agency, draft, and developing offensive linemen. Paris Johnson Jr., now Isaiah Adams. So this is a young man you would presume to use, probably pick 78, maybe the trade down from 47, as you mentioned. Senior Bowl darling, top 30 visit, somebody that could come in like Isaiah Adams last year, like Tip Ryman. Okay, you're not the number 1 guy on the depth chart. We're going to do Kelvin Beachum. We're going to do Jonah Williams. Come in here and learn, get stronger, get in our strength and conditioning program. But like physically, though, our guy, Fran Duffy, like he is a mountain of a man. He's a tremendous pass protector. And I think where his area of improvement needs to be is of a run blocker. But you know what? At the end of the day, like he is somebody that, according to Fran Duffy, never saw him overwhelmed once by power when his technique was right. So you're talking about a guy with immense technique for his size, his ability.
Yeah,
I think this is the perfect kind of, it's 6'6", 336. He's at, I think his arm length was almost 34 inches. This is the perfect kind of clay to mold for a year, 6 months to a year, to get ready to start opposite Paris Johnson Jr. in 2026. I would have no issue with this, especially like we're all in love with Josh Simmons. Could they get him at the back end of the first round in a trade up and a trade down? That's not very realistic right now. This is a realistic option for the team.
Yeah, and if he supplants Christian Jones, a 5th-round pick, you tried on Jones, a guy coming out of the Big 12 at the time from Texas, good size, but didn't give you what you wanted to really secure a job. I like him, and I like when Fran Duffy has him as a defined bubble, right? He's got the size, he's got the strength, he's got the backside, right? That's what you want from the tackle. Can he flip? Can he be that swing though? Because he primarily played left tackle at NC State, but I who he really reminds me of in just his breakdown is a young version of Kelvin Beachum. I think you would sign up for that if you're finding that, late day 2, early day 3 here. Let's continue with our breakdown as we're going from prospects 100 all the way to 51 with the PHNX Cardinals top 100 big board. Let's not go too far. How about a guy in Tommy Hill? This is a really intriguing prospect out of Nebraska. Dealt with foot injury, Johnny, but his pro comp, according to Fran Duffy, is Xavier Howard, the ball hawking defensive back who starred for the Miami Dolphins for so many seasons before kind of fizzling out. I like him. I like his size. He's just over 6 feet. He's long, just over 212 pounds. He's got the 32, almost 33-inch length arms. So he kind of fits what the Cardinals like from that position.
Yeah, I mean, check a box, Senior Bowl. Fran Duffy loves him. He's right now, the recording of this podcast, his CB4. Wow. I mean, his measurables are on par with a Max Melton. His frame, his mental makeup, an outside corner. You know, we've talked about it, that the Cardinals would like to not start Sean Murphy-Bunting this year, right? And while we anxiously await the signing of a veteran, like, this is another young defensive back to put in the pipeline. You've done it so well with Melton, with Garrett Williams. We'll see what happens with Elijah Jones, who didn't play much last year at all. Again, it's over 6 foot, lined up on the outside, solid height with a dense, sturdy frame. He's got outstanding arm length. Somebody that probably could use to put on a little bit of weight in his lower body. But again, I look at it. Okay, Max Melton, undervalued Rutgers corner. I would say Tommy Hill, probably undervalued Nebraska corner. These guys that fall through the cracks, that are loyal to the program. They're not hitting the transfer portal. Freak show. I know he's coming off, he had a little bit of a foot injury in 2024, but his closing bursts is something to behold. And so, again, perfect. I mean, Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford have absolutely cooked with day 2 defensive backs. And then I would also count Taylor Demerson at the beginning of round 4 as a safety.
Listen to this from Fran Duffy. Plays with swagger and confidence. He loves the game and plays that way. Coaches had trouble keeping him off the field. Sounds like a Cardinal to me. Tommy Hill from Nebraska. Let's wrap this thing up, and then we'll get you on to inside the top 50 a little bit later. But we'll end this one with somebody who used to be just our guy, Johnny Venerable's guy, Jack Sawyer, Captain Jack Sawyer, national champion, star during the college football playoff. He's just tumbled down the big board. We got him at 65, and I think that's a bit generous.
It's crazy. He's the 65th overall player. He's the 17th ranked edge rusher for Fran Duffy.
Right.
If we're sitting here on day 2 and you're like,
more than Fran.
Think about how many good edge players are in this class. I still love him. He's near and dear to my heart. He met with the Cardinals officially at the Combine. They met with them. He talked about JG and Rollis and the impression that they gave. He has limitations that even I will admit. His lower body is not ideal, but he is the perfect flyer pass rusher, assuming that you grab one early. Like, Jack Sawyer cannot be the pass rusher you leave April's draft with. You want to couple him with a James Pierce Jr., it's a hell of a building block, but he's somebody that, again, is he maxed out physically and just a tremendous Hall of Fame Ohio State prospect. Right. His infamous sack, scoop, and score to seal the semifinal game against Texas. I think that if you want to take a flyer on him at 78, or if he falls to 114, I will never have an issue with that. Elite program, premium position, limitations athletically. Let's see what he can do at the next level.
Well, a guy that loves ball, right? And I'll go to war a little bit for Captain Jack here. I think that, in under the right circumstances, can you get him in the 4th round early? Is he a 5th round pick, depending on how far he falls?
He might be.
He's a guy that was very productive at one of the the premier college football team last season. He played very well on the big stage, and I think, like, if you're replacing him to come in and start from fresh, Dennis Gardeck, as he works his way back from a knee injury and is unsigned, like, if that's your new version of Dennis Gardeck, like, I think that fits fine. But if you have the expectations like Jack Sawyer, 2nd round pick, come in, be productive, I think you'll be disappointed. But I think, go ahead.
Can we just make a quick point? Like, he was a 5-star recruit, according to Fran, and the #1 defensive lineman in the country coming out. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know if just he maxed out his physical capabilities. That could very well be the case. But like, he's not undrafted. JJ Watt walked on, right? And so
Mhm.
you can have two different kind of schools of thought past there, but he was an elite high school prospect.
He was big. He's very tall, right?
Right.
But he's got short arms. He's big frame, short arms. That's a big kind of taboo thing as far as edge rushers go. So, he's got that going in. I think, the rest of the, his peers caught up with him and actually, ran past him. But
Right.
like he was able to keep up with it, and he did it, as you can tell, like just with his play, right, in his motors. So he'll take Captain Jack Sawyer, I think, day 3. I don't know if any fan base would be upset with that, but just gave you a little taste of our top 100 through 51. Somebody I snuck in at 100 was Dan Walker, somebody that's just tumbled down my draft board, kind of like your Jack Sawyer. I had my Dan Walker. I just had to sneak him in, but got to check it all out. The rest of it, go phnx.com, become a diehard, get full access to it, get all the thorough breakdowns from Fran Duffy. They're fantastic. We've been leaning on them here in this segment alone. Make sure you like this video. But here are your 5 names we just dropped on you. Femi Oladejo out of UCLA, Anthony Belton out of NC State, Jaylen Milroe out of Alabama, Tommy Hill out of Nebraska, and wrapping it up with the captain, Jack Sawyer from Ohio State. We'll be back with another video. We'll start to get into the top 50, Johnny.
Let's do it. Drop a like. For Bo, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you on the next video.